society's demand, it's important that we use our modern day technology to find the most beneficial way to get an alternative. Algae oil has the most positive factors to help us, and it needs to get more proper funding if we can get it out to the market. So I'll begin with the whole cultivation process of algae oil, and then how it beats the other competitors like corn, and then I'll finish up with how there are some surprising benefits. So first, let's look at the simple biology aspect of algae cultivation. Scientists have found other ways to grow algae besides in the ocean, and those two are open water ponds and photobioreactors. As R.C. Hendricks said in his 2009 article for NASA, their algae meaning ability to accumulate or secrete biofuels can be controlled by changing their growth and metabolic composition. So the first two, well, let me back up for a second. So the first two energy pathways, if you guys look back to your biology class, I'm pretty sure you remember hearing autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic means that the specimen can create its own food. So like the most common one would be photosynthesis. So like sunlight, and then it can produce its own food. And then there's heterotrophic, where it relies on other surroundings to create its own food. So algae has like the composition of both, so it can do both. So some algae can also grow without sunlight. Like I said, it's also heterotrophic. So scientists have to feed it molecular sugar so it can grow. And then there's the two ways to grow it, and that's the open water ponds and the photobioreactors. The open water ponds are these two right here. Those are the more natural way to go about things. You just let it grow in the water. And then the photobioreactors are pretty much like solar panels, and they grow them inside these two glass panels. According to Reza, a science technology professor at the Southern University in Florida, in his 2013 book release, he said scientists can control growth conditions. It can grow in almost any environment. It can grow in fresh water, it can grow in salt water, and it can even grow in wastewater. So like all of our wastewater that we use, for the bathroom and things like that, it can even grow in those kind of conditions. Algae also has a high oil extraction. So most corn would, if they extract out of corn, it would be 15%. But with algae, you can actually get 50% out of your oil, which is really big. That's out of this world big. With this rate of 50% extraction, you can produce up to 2,000 to 5,000 gallons per acre of oil. So that's a whole lot of oil we can use for our cars and our electricity. In fact, Jonathan Trent, a scientist at NASA Ames Research Center, said in the 2011 film Cool It that we would just need 10.5 million acres of algae. If we grow that many acres, we can replace all of the aviation fuel in the world. So that is a minuscule amount compared to other things like our crude oil. So finally, we can move on to the other benefits of algae. Algae thrives and it's odorless. The problem with algae oil, though, is that we don't have enough funding to get it out there. So scientists are working on ways to make it less cost-worthy so that they can get more sponsors. A company, Solazyme, they have found a way to keep algae in the dark and feed it sugar, and that makes it more cost-efficient. And they're the leading algae oil producers right now. And according to Doris de Guzman, reported in her Green Chemical blog in 2012. She said that Solazyme has made an algae oil agreement with Propel Fuel, and now it's being marketed. So now you can use algae oil in like places like Berkeley and Santa Barbara. So now we can move on to the concluding. So my main point to you guys is that we need the proper funding, and the only way we can do that is if everybody educates themselves on algae oil and educates others. As a society, we need to make sure that we can move on from crude oil and help protect our environment. Algae oil is autotrophic, heterotrophic, and it's commonly grown in open water ponds and photobioreactors. It can grow in any climate, takes up less space, has a high oil extraction rate, and it eliminates CO2 and purifies water. According to Phys.org's September 2013 article, they even reported that algae can reduce life cycle CO2 emissions by 50% to 70%. So I'd like you guys just to imagine a world with clean air that is unaffected by our issues such as crude oil, no more gas guzzlers, and clean oceans that we can enjoy.